In this episode, we're going to talk about how you can leverage your data to increase your sales nearly immediately. I know that might sound like a crazy topic. You're like, Maddie, I'm not a numbers person. I don't like looking at my numbers, but trust me, when you learn how to leverage your data, read and analyze the numbers of what's coming on your site, on your Instagram, all of the things, you will actually learn what strategic changes you need to make incrementally to drastically increase your sales. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Small Business Growth Podcast. I'm your host, Madison Page, and I am a business growth specialist. We like to teach you how to stand out and sell out on social media by building a ride or die community around your brand. But I like to teach in a fun, conversational type of way, kind of like sipping coffee with a biz bestie. This isn't me preaching at you. This is me having a genuine conversation with you today, all about data and numbers. If you don't know, my dad is a financial advisor, and this is something from a young age I have been looking at numbers and spreadsheets and all sorts of things. I've always just been a little bit of a math nut, and going into business, when you can learn how to actually leverage your data, especially when you're scaling your sales, data tells all. And once you kind of figure out what all of the different numbers mean, it allows you to know what your next actions need to do in order to increase your sales, which is everything that we are going to talk about today. I cannot wait to dive in. A little birdie told me that only 75% of you are actually subscribed to the podcast out of all of the thousands of active listeners that we have. So if you are not yet subscribed, make sure that you are. This allows you to get alerted every time that we post a new episode every Tuesday and Friday. You'll never miss an episode. Every juicy topic that we have coming out, we have a lot on the docket for 2024. And if you want to make sure that you don't miss a key episode all about some real strategies to help you grow your business, make sure that you are subscribed, and as well as it helps all other people find this podcast. It pushes it out a little bit more. And if you love this podcast, it's a great way to give back as well. So without further ado, we're diving on in to leveraging data for your business and really how it can help you find strategic gaps in what you're doing. You hear me talk about this all the time, that when you're trying to grow your business, you have to figure out where the gap is. You have to figure out where your strategic gaps are. And really the key to those strategic gaps is looking at your numbers, because at a certain point you should have quite a bit of data. You should have a lot of data of people coming to your site, people going onto your email list, people coming to your Instagram. Like anywhere that you have people coming to, you can analyze the data as long as you have it set up properly to really be able to get the amount of data and the information that you need there. Shopify, which is the platform that I usually recommend for people to have, just because I think it's the most robust and scalable option, has incredible numbers that we can really dive into and really dive deep into what is actually going on your numbers there. It might seem hard to glance at numbers and understand what they mean. My clients say all of the time, like, I'll be like, hey, they'll tell me they have a problem, and I'm like, perfect, screenshot this data and let me know what it looks like. And then when they send me that information, I kind of look and I will translate what it's saying. I'm like, okay, so here you had 45 people in the last week add something to cart, and then you had 23 people abandon cart that actually went to checkout, and then you have 10 people that actually ended up paying and going through and actually converting into a sale. So let's look at those conversions and really figure out what this means. And then we can go back, and there's always some key indicators of why this happens when it happens. The best part about like really scaling your business is you can look at those numbers, you can make these small tweaks, and these small tweaks make a big difference, because if you can increase your conversion rate by 5, 10, 20%, those are immediate sales. And it's not just immediate sales, it is literally people that are already on your website, already shopping, that you're just converting. It's sales that you would have otherwise lost. It's literally just your efforts, your marketing is there, you're doing all of the things right, but when they come to your website or when they come to your social, they get lost in the shuffle, and now you just converted them. So you're doing everything right, but it's just not optimized to actually be as effective as it could be. And that is what analyzing your numbers allows you to really understand. it can tell. The best part about numbers is it can like tell you this is what I have to do in order to get to this next step, in order to increase my sales. You can kind of pinpoint that gap. So when people tell me like, okay, Maddie, I'm having this breakdown, a lot of times my clients, I'll just tell them to screenshot me the questions. I'll screenshot me the numbers, screenshot me here, screenshot me there. I want to see what these numbers look like, and why that is because we have to see where the breakdown lies. This isn't about, we're not talking today about profits. We're not talking about costs. Those are numbers that are incredibly important. So you know your costs, you know your profits, you know your profit margin, you know all of things. But today we're really more so talking about KPIs. I was going to say KPIs, which are key performance indicators. These KPIs are things, they can be overall conversion rate, they can be average order value, they can be return customer rate. A lot of times those are major KPIs, key performance indicators of a solid strategy and a solid, well-rounded strategy. We need to look at those different numbers, conversions from added to cart to actual conversions by sales channel, so we can really look at what's working, what's not, where do we need to optimize. If you've never looked at your numbers, this is your sign that you need to start. Why this? If you've never like done a deep dive into it and really understand, and if you don't do it consistently, you need to kind of try to come up with an option. No matter where you are in a business, come up with a habit on the first of every month that you analyze the numbers from the month before. Why? Because it allows you to really understand what is going on and the actions people are taking in your business. And all of a sudden you'll be like, holy cow, why did I have 150 people from Google last month? Where did somebody find me? Or referred from this website. Oh my gosh, why did this website do it? Okay, maybe that's a good strategy for me to find more websites that refer people like me that have similar audiences to me. And then it allows you to kind of shape your strategy and shape how you work on actually growing your business. You should have a metric that you're focusing on expanding pretty much at all times. You should be like, okay, right now I'm really trying to work on my brand awareness. I'm really trying to work on my email list growth. I'm really trying to work on my average order value or my overall conversion rate on my website. And when you know what that metric is because otherwise you're just working on your business, hoping for more sales, but you're not actually utilizing all of the tools and the resources that are put in place for you to be able to measure if your actions are actually working. This is the best part about when you're growing your business is you can change one thing. You can rework your whole homepage, make that the only thing you rework, and then test it for a week or two and see if your conversion rate increases. If it increases, okay, cool. Or if you rework the header of this one site, this one page, and then you can test those things, you can go back and see if it works. It allows you to actually test. It allows you to use numbers to actually prove what is working. Why? Because numbers speak the truth. In business is a numbers game at a certain point. And that's deeper than just, you need a more amount of people in front of you. When I say that, I mean, if you can analyze your numbers, you can win. Because then you can see, okay, what are people doing? How are they acting when they come on our site? How long are they spending? If you have a really big bounce rate, okay, maybe you have a video that's taking a really long time to load. If you have a really large bounce rate, maybe you're confused, your website's super confusing and we need to rework it. I've had clients that we have literally spent time just reworking their homepage of their website and their sales increase. I have read research papers where people change the color of a button to red and their sales increased their conversions increased by 40%. I think that was an opt-in page, like a lead generation page, and where they changed it to 40, they increased their conversions to 40% by making the button red. Maybe there's a link that's broken that's actually making people lose interest, where you lose them. Maybe a lot of times, especially in my beginner clients, I come onto their website and I'm like, hey, your sales process is super clunky and that is why you aren't making sales, because we switch around their website. We do all of this marketing effort. People come to your website and then they're like, I'm super confused, and they bounce. If you confuse somebody for more than 3 to 5 seconds, you will lose them. The average, vast majority of people will not scour for information or something. If they're confused or they don't know where to go next, they'll just bounce off your site. We are in the average, attention span of an adult right now is 8 seconds. The average attention span of a goldfish is 9. And so we used to say that we have the average attention span of a goldfish. We are literally worse than a goldfish at this point. So your website, your Instagram, everything needs to be eye-catching and keeping people's attention. And so there's a lot that your numbers can tell you if people are bored, if people are confused, if there is an added fee, maybe if we add free shipping, your sales will increase because that last minute fee isn't there. There's a lot of things that people can find on your site that will make them want to bounce, but your numbers tell us what is happening in order to be there. There's a major difference between scaling and starting companies. Starting businesses where you're like trying to get to consistent sales, you aren't quite to consistent sales yet. You really have to do big strategy shifts in order to get sales. You're basically like, I want to take as much action in order to get sales as possible. I'm going to do all of these things to try to push sales, get people to my site, and we'll see what works. When you're scaling, you know what has worked for you. You know what is proven. You know what, when you launch something, where people are going to buy, who's going to buy. But you have to make small tweaks to make it more, to see bigger results, to make things more effective, to convert higher. That when you have 150 sessions on your website, you don't just have 6 sales, you actually have 20 sales from it. You actually hit those major indicators because your site is actually effective. And so a lot of times this all comes back to your website, and this comes back to your social, as well as it comes to your email list. These are the 3 major areas that I really love to check your data on, because they're the area that are consistently going out to customers and that we can actually look and see what is going on. Do you have a ton of profile visits and no new followers? Do you have a ton of website clicks? Do you have a ton of people clicking on this one link as opposed to this other link? Like, what is actually somebody's interest? Everybody's audience is different, but what you have to do is be able to objectively look and infer what is actually happening. When you hit a sales plateau, you need to be able to identify exactly what you need to change. If you don't know how to do that, you need to find somebody that does. So you need to be able to look at these numbers and be like, okay, these are the areas. I have people come into my website, because sales, you can reverse engineer sales. Okay, you can say, all right, so my social, I have a bunch of people clicking my profile. I have a bunch of people clicking on my profile, a bunch of people clicking my website visits. They come to my website and they bounce. They don't really look too far. They don't really poke around. Okay, that means something on my website or my messaging is broken. Maybe they add it to cart and then they don't end up shopping. Okay, what does that mean? What can we infer from that? And that really comes from experience. That comes from testing, that comes from experience, and that comes from truly understanding buyer behavior, consumer psychology, and like how people actually buy, why they buy, and the information they need in order to buy. Those are things that literally I took full classes on in college: consumer behavior, buyer psychology, and why people buy, because you need to be able to know those things in order to reverse engineer the strategy in order to grow from there. It can take really simple changes to see major results in your numbers, where I have had people that changed how much people need to buy to get free shipping, increase their free shipping from $35 to $50, and their average order value skyrocketed, immediately went to $70. I have seen people add bundles to their products, like where we figured out, hey, like you have a lot of low cost products, let's do a bundle for a discount, and their average order value way skyrocketed. People were spending $50 on stickers as opposed to $4. Another thing would be looking at changing the layout on a listing page, and your conversion rate went way higher. Adding more emotion to your website because people were confused, adding more information to your website, reworking where your sizing guide is or your overall sense of your candles or whatever, because you need to be answering people's questions. If you lose them for more than 3 to 5 seconds and you confuse them, they're gonna bounce. So it takes these small little tweaks. Literally, changing your free shipping from $35 to $50 might take you a minute and a half, and it literally increased one of my clients' average order value by around 50%. She went up from 32 to, I think, like 50 or something like that. It was something really close, where it was about 50% of an increase in her average order value by just doing something that took her a literal minute and a half, but she didn't know what to look at. And that's something I hear really often when people send me messages. They send me their screenshots of their numbers and I say, okay, this is what I infer from this data. And they're like, oh my gosh, I would have never even thought that that is what that meant. That is so helpful. And it's because you need to understand what actions mean what things. You need to understand that buyer psychology. You need to understand the average conversion rates, the common reasons for drops in conversion rates or for a dip or a low performing number. If you have a low conversion or a low average order value, if people are usually only buying once and not buying again, you need to be able to look at that, or they buy from you in person and we can't get them to come onto your website. You need to figure out what to change in order to increase these things. That is how you can actually leverage your numbers. You first have to identify where the gap is, where that conversion is. But in order to do that, you need to know the average number, the average rate, the average margin, the average whatever percentage that we're looking for there. We need to look at the common reasons for drops in those conversion rates or increases or whatever that might be. And we need to figure out what we need to change in order to make this look better. It is a little bit of a testing period, but it's not really testing. It's changing one thing at a time and watching it increase and seeing, okay, this is how we do it. It doesn't have to be as testing when you really have a strategy behind it. There's people on your site already shopping. These eyes are already there. You are just not effectively selling to them. And something you're doing or not doing is making them bounce and not buy. And so we're changing things incrementally to incrementally sell to more people, to be more effective in your app. Your marketing's already working. Your actions are already working. People are on your website. People are on your social. They found you, and then you're losing them because some part of your strategy is actually making them bounce. And this is the part that is always like abandoned carts and people adding things to cart and not actually checking out, and just like overall website visits that people that aren't actually converting. I hear this a lot. People are like, Maddie, I had like 150 sessions on my website today and nobody bought. Why is this? And then we can go back and we can reverse engineer that and say, okay, what are some of the things that we need to improve in order to improve that conversion rate? This isn't something that's a failure. It's just something that is bringing light to a major gap in your strategy, which is so important. And as a business owner that is trying to grow and scale, you have to make this a practice to do it really often, because we constantly have to be trying to improve and work on our business. These are things that we have to be able to look at and be able to understand what that means we need to change and what that means that we can adjust in order to make this all happen. We need to make it more effective. This isn't adding a bunch of newness to what you're already doing. Again, this isn't like when you're trying to grow your business, it's not about adding more content. It's not about adding more platforms and more emails and just you need to do more. It's how can you actually optimize the things you're already doing? Because you're already doing the action. It's just not effective where your conversion rates are actually lower. So we want to look at those strategies. This whole analyzing data is a major focus of my new scaling program. Week 1, we are going to do a deep dive into your numbers, your Instagram, your website, your emails. We will be analyzing your numbers and breaking down your exact sales breakdowns and creating your scaling plan from that. So we can identify where we can start optimizing, making your efforts, your eyes, your time, and your energy pay off to a new income level. And this allows you to make these small tweaks and watch the numbers rise as opposed to having to add all of these new things. Why this is so wonderful is because it's literally adding one thing. It's making an adjustment one time and coming back and checking to seeing if it's working. Making that adjustment again, it's like a 30-second change and then seeing if it works. 30-second change, seeing if it works. And so this isn't something where it's going to take hours and hours and hours of your day to analyze your numbers. It's you need to look at your numbers, see what we think we can change, and come back and be like, okay, yes, this looks great. Okay, yes, let's do this. Okay, this sounds really good. And so that allows us to be able to actually create an action plan of how you can grow when we look at your numbers. Your numbers are just one piece of growing your business, but it's a major piece that you need to fully understand from really what, why, and how to solve your discrepancies in your numbers. If you can do that, you can then tell yourself how you can go back, rework, and know what to always be doing to consistently scale your sales. And that is really what it comes down to. We are creating this business that is for natural growth. And what that comes down to is you needing to understand how to look at your numbers, how to make small tweaks, and seeing what comes back. Because what happens is your conversion rates will just consistently keep on increasing. It'll allow you to identify your own gaps in the future and keep coming up with strategic action plans from here on out. Because everything we do around here, especially when you're analyzing numbers and going into new eras of businesses, building on that entrepreneurial IQ, this is a very important thing that you need to understand as a business owner is your KPIs, your key performance indicators that mean that your site is working well, that there isn't a sales breakdown. And then it is, do we need more people? Do we need to change this website? What is the actual breakdown, and what should our objectives be to keep on growing? If you're interested in scaling and you are looking for support, you want this expansion, you want to analyze your numbers with me, you want to come up with a sales strategy with me in order to strategically increase your sales and really expand your product sales into 2024, you can DM me Scale. We are starting to sell early bird tickets to our scaling program. We haven't talked too much about it, but it is in the works and we're so excited. We're only taking a couple of people because it is really intimate. It is us workshopping together. It's a little bit more like CMO vibes of like me coming in and like, hey, let's make some of these adjustments. This is what we need to do. And kind of workshopping these things together, coming up with strategy together. So if that's something you're interested in, come over to my Instagram at thisismadisonpaige, DM me Scale, and I will be right there with you, helping you out with figuring out if this is a good program for you. Analyzing your numbers is something that gives you a lot of power and a lot of leverage in your business. If you can understand what your numbers are and create a solid action plan from those numbers, which takes time and experience and understanding of consumer behavior and buyer psychology of why people would bounce on your website or why people would add something to their site or come to your Instagram and not want to follow you or something like that. If you have viral videos or videos getting thousands of views but no follows from it, again, that's a strategic breakdown that we need to fix because you're missing an opportunity. It's not about adding new things. It's about taking advantage of every opportunity we can and trying to make everything we're doing as effective as possible so your efforts pay off to the extent that they're worth, and then adding new strategies and then trying to figure out what are the new expansion things that we want to do. So if you have any questions for me, feel free to reach out at thisismadisonpaige on Instagram. If you are not subscribed to this podcast, make sure that you are. We put out new episodes every Tuesday and Friday. I am so excited to be really diving on into your numbers here coming soon. I love you. I'm rooting for you, and I'm in your corner always.